That's Sarah Silverman's irreverent holiday hit, Give the Jew Girl Toys. That's her song. Now, the holidays are, of course, a time for gifts, treats, and family, but also for debating religion and Santa's race and a host of prickly theological issues. And that's familiar territory for Ellie Valley, the artist-in-residence at The Forward, the largest Jewish newspaper in the U.S. Valley's drawings challenge common premises about religion, democracy, and foreign policy, like his controversial cartoon criticizing the Israeli parliament's hearings about J Street, an American group that aims to be pro-Israel and pro-peace.
I decided for this show trial in Israel, the best analogy or the best way to dramatize it in the fictional world of a comic was using Kafka's trial. And so Joseph K. spends the entire time trying to figure out why he's been arrested, why he's being interrogated, what the charges are against him, and he goes through this series of absurd encounters. So this comic is called The Trial, and essentially it's a mashup comic between Kafka's narrative, The Trial, and the Knesset testimonies. Not the Knesset testimony, the Knesset interrogations.
Valley's other controversial characters include Israel Man and Diaspora Boy, a satirical attack on a certain strand of pro-Israel mythology, and Stuart the Jewish Turtle, a stubborn and isolated little turtle who hurls non-sequitur talking points about anti-Semitism at anyone who will listen. Ellie from The Forward and a friend of mine joins us. Thank you for being here.
Hi, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I want to talk about one of your comics that was very controversial, Evangelator, and it tells a very goofy but important story about the idea that to get the most pro-Israel Jews you could, you see this up on the screen, they were going to convert every Jewish American liberal into evangelicals. And there on the screen we see it says, "You mean the truest Zionists of them all." And this whole science fiction plot turns into basically changing these liberal Jews, but they turn into dinosaurs instead of evangelicals. Then they make Aliyah, they make this trip there. We see the dinosaurs deboarding in Israel. But a lot of people were upset by the implicit critique here. What were you trying to say?
I was saying a lot of things. Thank you. That's a very nice question. I was saying a few things. First of all, there used to be a huge divide and tension between Jews who had been emancipated from the proverbial ghetto, but not fully integrated into outside cultures. And, the tension came out like 100 years ago through great art and great culture. These days, the tension is between on a smaller level, between Jews within the community who are active and who are extremely liberal. American Jews are known for being predominantly progressive, and those who claim to speak for Jews, and the current Israeli government, which is the most right-wing government Israel has ever had. And so, in my view, Netanyahu, who claims to speak for the Jewish people, who often calls himself, leader of the Jews, is out of touch with what Jews really want and who Jews really are today. And I think he would prefer it if American Jews were not so liberal, and indeed if they were evangelicals, who are, according to the comic and according to reality, better Zionists than most American Jews, because they believe God gave the land to the Jews, and they don't question things the way traditional active American Jews do question it.
Can we talk about Darth Vader for a second?
No, I'd rather stick to Netanyahu.
You have this cartoon where you have Darth Vader. Basically he's a half Jew, and he's trying to draw Jews to the dark side by getting them to marry non-Jews. And so, of course, that means when Luke Skywalker, who's sent to fight him, comes and finds him and learns that Darth is his father, that means Luke finds out that he's a quarter Methodist. This is a personal issue for me because my dad is Jewish, and like nearly half of American Jews, he married a non-Jew. And so he had 4 kids, 2 of whom are now practicing in Jews, and 2 of whom, including me, are not. How should this community be thinking about intermarriage when you have, it's so common, and yet people are worried about declining Jewish populations and declining Jewish traditions because people like me are not carrying the Judaism on?
Well, I don't know if that's necessarily the case. I don't know your pedigree there, but I do think that intermarriage is an amazing opportunity for the Jewish community. It's like it potentially could double its ranks. But the problem is that those who claim to speak for the Jewish community tend to be more tribal, more conservative, reactionary, and us versus them in their outlook, and they tend to make people who have intermarried or the children of the intermarried feel unwanted and unliked and even not Jewish. And so it could either be looked upon as a great opportunity or as a threat. And unfortunately, the leadership of the community, although it's changing slowly, tends to look at it as a threat. And I don't think it's very good.
It's interesting that a lot of what you're doing is so smart and so real and so honest that it wouldn't be published in a non-Jewish paper because it would hurt too many people's feelings or brush up against too many people's sides. So because you're speaking within the family, you have more freedom.
Some could say I have more freedom. Others could say that I get a lot of pushback because of the very people I mentioned who are more reactionary within the community. You know, I mean, I've gone through problems for my comics. You know, people claim, because I get accused of being a Nazi, self-hater, capo, all that kind of thing. They claim that the noses on my Jews are too big.
Wow.
And so, I actually go out of my way to make them as small as possible. You know, but like, because I don't like that kind of pushback. But like when I'm drawing someone like Abe Foxman or Alan Dershowitz, who are like, you know, living caricatures, you know, it's difficult because I'm a comic artist, not a plastic surgeon. You know. But
Are you really doing that? Or you're just
yeah, no, I actually go out of my way to, unless, you know, it's hyperbole, but I mean, generally I try to make them diminutive.
Yeah.
My new comic, though, which I'm very excited about, is all fish, and I'm excited because fish don't have noses, so no one can
So you
go
don't
off
have
me for
that
this.
issue,
Yeah.
and maybe
Although,
there's a gefilte fish angle there.
no, I don't do that kind of cornball stuff, but
we have to
I'm
go.
a little concerned that they're going to say the
Ari.
gills are too big, or the
gills are
fins
too
are
big.
Semitic.
Ari, are you able to deal with the
I can handle
bird?
it. Ellie Valley, thank you very much. And I think
Nicely done.
I think the work
done?
is important, and it goes to a lot of political conversations. How do you define Jew? How do you define American? How do you define progressive? Really glad we had a moment with you. Now, up next, we're going to talk about 24 trees, 1,200 cookies, and 1,000 yards of satin ribbon. Yes, the question, what does it take to make the holidays special at the White House, from one of Michelle Obama's team of decorators, and I can attest to the fact that this year's looked pretty great.